So, I've never made a vlog before, so we're just gonna see how this one goes. So I am going to be speaking on the show John Proctor is the Villain, which was put on by the Rollins Theater Department and actually just closed. So as you guys already know, I am a theater major, and this is a topic that we've been talking about a lot within my classes. A lot of the classes within the department often require reflections on the shows that are produced on the Annie. So I've already kind of thought and fleshed out these thoughts for a while, especially in terms of like the acting style and just believability versus non-believability, things that felt more realistic and then more like caricatures. But I think something that I haven't really talked much on, just because my reflections for the theater department haven't asked for it, is the content of the play. So John Proctor is the Villain, I know you guys already saw it, touches on issues of statutory rape and sexual assault, as well as rape allegations, and it deals a lot with the coping mechanisms and the society's aptitude of believing survivors versus holding plausible deniability. But anyways, I thought the discussion started about statutory rape. I thought the discussion it started about statutory rape was incredibly important. And I also, while, like, as a person, I didn't love the ending just in terms of the fact that it's not much of a resolution. As an artist and as a woman living in our society, I thought that it portrayed the human condition very well. And I think that Shelby finding peace and getting closure in her own way is the best resolution you can get, while still staying true to the message that this is something that continues to happen and plague our society and we're not paying enough attention to it. However, I thought there was one moment that really just kind of bothered me. So in the beginning, I want to say it's in like the first half of the first act, possibly even the first quarter, the moment where we get Raylan and Lee alone on stage together, and he sexually assaults her. I don't know, I feel like something very heavy was introduced in that moment, that she was assaulted, that he threw a desk and apologized in a very manipulative fashion, leading you to kind of believe that possibly this isn't the first time, like maybe things like similarly he was violent or angry had happened before. And yes, the scene covers this conversation a little bit, but then once the scene ends, it's never talked about again, and we jump on board with Ivy's father, which again, important conversation, but I feel like even with that, they didn't show a true conversation about what had happened with Ivy's father, because like in high school, I don't know, and when I was in high school, every time somebody would be like, oh, this happened, like we all jumped on board. There was never a question of like, oh, did it really happen? Like, is it legit? We were all like, oh my God, it is legit. And then like a couple of days in, you'd be like, wait a second, like wrapping your brain around it, really trying to be logical about it. And I thought that moment in earnest wasn't portrayed on the stage. And I thought between that being like that storyline of Ivy's father having an affair with an underage person, so raping somebody, wasn't fully fleshed out enough in a similar fashion to the moment between Raylan and Lee, that I just kind of felt as though I felt like big plot lines or really important conversations were being dropped for like the next one, which is understandable. And it's not to say that like the Ivy conversation is less important than the Raylan conversation, or that the Shelby conversation didn't need to happen, because all of those conversations are important. But I felt as though there was this hierarchy of which conversation was the most important. So the second that Shelby was introduced on stage, I think we talked about Ivy's dad one more time after that, and she like freaked out, and then it was like whatever. And the conversation of what had happened between Raylan and Lee never happened again. And as somebody who's been in a situation similar in terms of like there being like a sharp burst of anger followed by profuse apology in a way of manipulation. That's something that needs to be talked about and at least fleshed out more than it was. Now, that being said, I did think that they did a really great job of bringing these topics to life, especially just in terms of getting different stories kind of on the stage. And it reminded me a lot of the New York Times article that we read with the 45 different stories of consent on campus, where it has moments of like, well, does Raylan want to have sex with Lee? Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. In the moment of sexual assault, it deals with Ivy's father and like a consensual relation, like having affairs. It deals with Shelby and Smith like having an affair and how she can't consent to it, but she consents to it, but it's still statutory rape, and how those feelings manifest in her and how she copes with them. And that was something that was brought forth by the New York Times, and I thought that was very real and very true. I just felt as though the reactions to these things and the conversations that were being had in the realm of the play weren't necessarily as earnest as the stories themselves. But I still really loved the show. I think there were some acting choices that I didn't entirely agree with, or that I just wish were a little bit different. It wasn't my favorite show, but I did really love it. I expected not to, and I did. So I was pleasantly surprised, and hopefully I did this vlog right.